right, if you're in the personality space long enough, you get your type figured out, you get the functions figured out, you get the title voice figured out, and then quickly it becomes a game of, oh God, how do I get through this hero's journey? And so then you find yourself kind of coming back to David Goggins and Jocko and going, all right, what is this grown-up discipline game that I really don't want to do? Hold on, let me throw a couple more years. I'm looking for shortcuts. Maybe there's something I really want to do. How do I get
information somewhere. There's got to be missing information. That'll solve it.
And then eventually you get worn down. You're like, all right, so what is this discipline thing? I know that's the right answer. I just want to see if I can find a way around it, right? So Jocko recently on New Year's, and I just happened to check his channel literally randomly. The minute he put this up. And it has been very helpful to me because it's kind of the same stuff that I've already kind of figured out, have to push and do. But like, he had this one video he did on New Year's where he just like spelled it all out perfectly. Now I've been doing a lot of writing and stuff and kind of defining terms and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, there was an OI overlap. I couldn't say it better.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't say his own message better. So let me kind of set it up. I'm going to play a bunch of his clips, let him say it. We'll break it down, get the hell out of here.
Cool.
But I want to set up first with the pain equation, right? So the pain equation, this is like a big thing between a child and adults, like what somebody learns going through the hero's journey. There are two pains. Avoid pain now for a greater pain later. The child, will give me pleasure, I'll avoid pain.
Yeah.
Or take pain now for less pain later.
Right.
Do the hard work, do the discipline for meaning and a reward later.
Right.
Every child starts off with, in default programs to avoid pain now and seek pleasure. Over time, the avoidance of pain builds up to what we call a tidal wave.
Yep.
Or you're just unaware of it because it's, save your demon blind spot.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the hero's journey, the adult chooses to start consciously living a new pain equation.
Yes. They
take on the pain of discipline now for a greater meaning.
Yeah.
Now, Jocko being SETE and, Navy SEAL commander, an experienced guy who's really gone through a lot of life, like, he's one of the few alphas that are not only kind of like getting a passing grade on his demons, but actually preaching his demons.
Yeah, he actively seeks them out.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. So he preaches demon NI of like, hey, you gotta know the big picture.
Right.
You gotta know the long term. Hey, demon FI, you gotta prioritize. You gotta know the why. You gotta know your meaning. So he's really good at tying those two together. So take all of that bullshit and then layer it over to what he's saying here.
When I do an assessment and look at my life, I think I have benefited the most from one thing that I do, and that is think strategic. Now, this is a military term. Strategic in the military means big picture. It means long term. Strategic in military terms is where you are going to end up. That's thinking strategic. And the opposite is tactical thinking. Tactical thinking, which again, in the military means short-term thinking. It means immediate action. It means what's happening right now. So there's a big difference. This is the differentiator for me, is thinking long-term versus thinking short-term.
Right, kind of good setup. Now, coming from an EP, that's a big deal.
Right.
I believe that this thinking long-term, this thinking strategic is one of the most, if not the most important concepts a person can consider in order to improve themselves and improve their lives. Here's some examples. Short-term thinking says, the donut tastes good, eat it. Short-term thinking says, one workout doesn't matter. I can skip it. Short-term tactical thinking is the part of your brain that says, I should just finance this new car or this new watch or this new TV or whatever else, instead of actually saving and paying cash for something that you can actually afford. Short-term thinking encourages you to make short-term emotional decisions that hurt you in the long run.
Right.
And they definitely don't move you toward your overall strategic goals.
Right.
Really good.
Hold on, I got the text here. I actually wrote this all out, or I got it from the transcript and then tried to spell check it to some degree.
Okay.
The big picture, long term, right? So this is all a good setup of just pain now, pleasure later.
The more short-term decisions you make, decisions that are based on that immediate gratification, decisions based on quick emotional satisfaction, and even based on involuntary chemical releases in your body, that dopamine hit, the further from the path you will stray. So what I'm saying is, don't do that. Instead, think strategic, think long-term, act strategic. Take action that improves your long-term position and moves you toward your long-term goals. How do you do that?
Right. So he's setting up the problem.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is that the problem is it's hard for people to see the problem 5 seconds later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like everybody's like, oh, yeah, I know that. I know I should be doing that.
Right.
Anyways, tomorrow happens. I wake up in the morning and I don't want to do it.
You won't remember. It's the thing. The reality is how powerful the mechanisms that he's talking about. Unless you live by this, unless this is your religion that you are living by, you will forget seconds later. He'll say this, you'll go on and literally watch another video after you watch his, and then just absolutely react emotionally, and then get to work trying to solve that reaction of emotion right there in that moment.
Because it's the problem we're seeing is it's who's got the stronger chemical pathways in your brain, right? So it's like the stronger things are like my default animal, my default human being, my default experiences. I get dopamine hits from this.
Yeah.
And to try and move that, now you're talking about setting up a new habit.
Yes.
New discipline.
Yes.
So how the hell do you do that? Otherwise you wake up tomorrow, you're like, yeah, whatever, and you don't do it.
Right.
First, figure out where you want to go. Figure out who you want to be. Figure out what you are trying to do with your life. Write them down. What are you saving for? What are you working toward? What kind of physical condition do you want to be in? What kind of relationships do you want to have? What skills are you trying to develop? And just like any leader, you have to explain to yourself the why.
Says an ESFP.
I know. It's so beautiful.
How does he know that?
Right. So basically what he's saying is if you do not have a goal, and if you do not have a choice of an identity that is attached to your goal, then you will just be spinning in your default wiring. This is the stuff that we talk about all the time. So it's beautiful. I love hearing it from Jocko, where you're like, well, that's the answer. You're not gonna come up with anything different if you're not setting yourself up for who do you want to be. So you're making conscious choices of an identity that you're working towards, and then setting up goals that move you towards that identity that you're working towards. Absolutely 1000%. You won't be able to track that you're stuck in a pain equation state. You won't be able to track it because there will be nothing. There will be no alarm, no buzzer going off that's saying, right now you're doing it. You're not getting to this goal. If you don't have a goal, you can stay in a subjective state and you get to just spin on the worst kind of pain equation, which is avoid pain, avoid pain, avoid pain, ultimately getting you the most pain ever.
Why do you want to save money? Why do you want to be in that physical condition? Why do you want those relationships, or why do you want those skills? You are your own leader. Give yourself the mission and explain the why behind those goals. Write those things down in simple, clear, concise language. Read it before you go to bed. Read it when you wake up. Read it every day until it is embedded in your brain, consciously and subconsciously.
Okay, so a lot going on right there, right? Mm-hmm. So what I'm finding as I'm getting older, as this is starting to work more and more for me, finally as I'm getting older, like this has been something I've been trying to work on since I was like in my 20s, right? Yeah. So now I'm in my mid 40s and like it's actually starting to work. It's like the thing that I'm finding is, in what he's saying is like, get to a spot to where you get some clarity. Okay, so who do I want to be? What do I want to do? How do I want to do it? Just to some degree. You write it down, and then your job as a young person is tomorrow, the next morning, be like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to go watch TikTok. I'm going to go play video games. I'm going to go drinking. Like, that's fine. You're still going to do that. But if you still know, okay, this is what I have to do. This is who I want to be. And what's your why? Like for me, a lot of it, especially younger, it's like, the first thing is, well, to avoid the pain. Because as you start to get older, like medium age, you start to realize, okay, by not doing the things I should be doing, I'm getting more pain. You start to see that. You don't get to like the fun Gary Vee side where you're actually having a lot of fun on the other side. Right. That takes a while to get through that. You know,
where you're now in the abundant giving state.
It's like pleasure, pain avoidance, pleasure. Like there's a whole thing we can break down later. But like, it's like it's an example of like we all know this with just our health. We're like, oh, I know I should eat better. Doesn't mean we do. Oh, I know I should exercise. Doesn't mean we do.
Right.
But when you eventually have that health scare at 39, you at least know, you have it written down in your brain. You already know, well, I know what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're doing it.
Right.
So breaking those in 2 different steps really, really helps. Like telling yourself, okay, look, all I need to do the next 3 months is I just need to write down very clearly who I want to be to some generality. You can make that abstract. I just want to be the adult, not the child, right?
Yeah.
And I know what I should be doing. I should be getting up at this time and not that time. I should be working out. I should be spending 15 minutes a day on my business.
Doesn't mean you're going to do it.
Say that for later. Literally, this has helped me out so much. I wrote stuff down, and then for months, some things even years.
Yeah.
So some of my workouts and stuff,
me too.
Years, where I'm like, I know I should be doing it, still not doing it.
Right.
Literally years later, it finally started to become part of my identity, my routine. And I had to be okay with my 20s, my 30s, into my 40s until finally. So what I'm saying is like he's saying this so fast on a clip. And everyone's like, I tried that, it didn't work. Like,
yeah, that.
I know, me too. Right. He's skipping over. There might be a 10-year.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Hard. Yeah, it's not.
Jocko's like, I think he's like late 40s, almost 50. Right? Yeah. He's been doing this a long time. He's been doing this a long time. This didn't happen overnight.
Right.
Once you've written those things down, now with all this talk about strategic thinking, also know this: you need tactical wins.
Wheelbarrows.
You need to win battles in order to win the war. You need to get out of bed. You need to run. You need to work out. You need to read and study and practice. And you need to do things that you don't necessarily want to do. And I know that can be hard. That's why people lose the war. That's why people never achieve their strategic goals. They lose the little tactical battles, the death of 1,000 cuts.
Right? All right. That's the wheelbarrows we're talking about. Do your daily bullshit.
Right. And most people won't do that because of ego. You will not be satisfied with just one fucking spoon to shovel out of the wall. I'm better than that. I'm smarter than you. You know what? Jocko, that's a really cute video game that you played. I love how you did those levels. That's really cute and all that wheelbarrow shit that you had to do.
I'll build an app for that.
I'm going to build an app for that. I'm going to come to that. I'm going to go to that level, but I'm smarter than you guys. I know I'm going to be able to get over that. I'm going to find a way. It'll just take me 10 years, but that's fine. I'm going to find a way so I can shortcut all that shit.
I know, right.
And when you finally realize that you're wasting your life away trying to get a shortcut when you could have been so much farther ahead, it's only then that your brain can start connecting that the delusions inside your mind is actually causing you so much more pain than you were even originally trying to get away from.
Back to the pain equation, yeah.
Yeah.